What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. You know, um, I really didn't want to do this video, and I almost didn't because I really don't want to get a devil his due on anything. And by devil, I mean that dastardly JJ Redneck. Okay? Because it was a couple of years ago when JJ was still in the media that he sent now somehow loathes so much. But he was part of the Fourth Estate not that long ago, a couple months ago actually. He said to the effect about Doc Rivers that he's a coach that didn't or doesn't like to take accountability for when things don't go right and doesn't take criticism well, etc., etc. And that seems at the time I found that to be very disrespectful coming from JJ Redneck. I mean, Doc Rivers basically helped your career when you signed with the Clippers. What was it, 10, 11 years ago? He helped your career. And, I chopped it up to a lot of bitterness on his part, probably due to the fact that JJ Redneck is never a good defender. Probably mad that Doc Rivers took him out in certain instances where, his defensive liabilities were a problem. Other things, maybe their personalities clashed. JJ and Doc sort of strike me as people with strong personalities. So look, Doc Rivers is one of the great coaches in the history of the NBA. I think he's top 6 or 7 all time in wins. He's one of the few coaches with over 1,000 coaching victories, an NBA championship. I think he has something like a 58% career win percentage. He's one of the great coaches, whether people like it or not. But at the same time, having said all of that, his statement about where the Bucks are as far as in the pecking order in not just the NBA but in the Eastern Conference, his flippant statement about that rubbed me the wrong way like crazy. And I gotta talk about it. So look, the Bucks got the absolute snot knocked out of them yesterday versus the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. They lost by 34 points, 140 to 106. Gave 140 points to the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. Embarrassing loss. But not just that. This season, the Bucks, who are barely above 500, for the second year in a row, because they were barely above 500. Matter of fact, they might have actually been under 500 last year with Doc Rivers. They're somewhere around that 500 figure. But anyway, despite being barely above 500 this year, they're 0-8 versus the Cavaliers, who just had their 12-game winning streak snapped by the Pacers. They're 0-8 versus the Cavaliers, the Knicks, and the Celtics this year. So the top tier teams in the Eastern Conference, they can't seem to beat. There are games where they're competitive, but ultimately, whatever the case may be, the lack of team discipline, whatever, you can blame injuries at times. But right now, they're a relatively healthy team, and they still have problems beating the top. Hell, they have problems, beating the lower tier teams. They got to struggle to beat those teams. So Doc was asked about this, and I didn't like what Doc had to say. He said, quote, "I literally could give a F. I mean, I'm being very honest. That's more written stuff. Coaches laugh at that. I'm being honest because we know you're playing well in the playoffs. You play those same teams. You can beat those same teams. Right now, the way we've played the Knicks, that's probably very true because they have kicked our butt twice. So you got to live with what they're doing. I got to do something better. The team's got to do something better, but we feel comfortable against anybody. I'm sorry. I don't like that. I don't like that. The Knicks have destroyed you twice. You keep losing to the Cavaliers. Now, one of those games against the Cavs, I think, if I remember correctly, was actually very winnable. I think Donovan Mitchell hit like a buzzer beater. But still, you can't beat the top tier teams. You're barely beating the bottom feeders. Every night, somebody on the perimeter, for the most part, or the other team's marquee player goes off against the Bucks. The Bucks have these weird stretches where they just seem discombobulated offensively. If it wasn't for the stellar play of Giannis Antetokounmpo, I sometimes wonder if this Bucks team would even be, if they would even have 10 wins. We can blame Dame, and I think he's part of the problem. Absolutely. I think they need to blow this team up. But at the same time, to sit there and say that, it's just a regular season. Who cares? I mean, we can easily go on a run and beat one of these teams if things go. What the fuck is that? What is that? So you're fine with them being the Bucks being mediocre? No, the Bucks are supposed to be one of the top teams in the NBA. Period. The Bucks are supposed to be one of the top teams in the NBA. This ain't cool that they're 500. This isn't acceptable. I mean, it sounds like you just, maybe I didn't get the whole quote. Maybe they're not quoting everything that he said. Maybe on top of this, he said, am I happy with the way we are? No, we got to be better than this. But it sounds to me more like he's saying, this doesn't really matter much. We laugh about these things, man. Even if we go 41-41, we can still go on a run. If we get hot. No. Giannis Antetokounmpo, this core, well, one of the guys got traded, Drew Holiday, but this core won a championship already. Well, I'll just say Giannis and Drew and Chris Middleton, they won championships. They won a championship, Buck fans don't want Giannis to age out to the point where, he's not the same player and they missed opportunity. This ain't like a 23-year-old, maybe even 24-year-old Giannis. This is a 30-year-old Giannis. The Bucks got to win now. We can't rely on this, we can get hot in the playoffs. That's that Miami Heat shit. And to be honest with you, that hasn't worked in recent years. Like, I'm trying to think of a team. How many teams go 500 in the history of the NBA? How many teams go 500 or just about 500 and then have a run to win the championship? Like, how many teams have won like 45 games and under during the regular season and have won championships? It rarely happens. Last team I can think of off the top of my head, maybe I'm skipping some years, but the last team I can think of that did that, won fewer than 45 games or 45 games and fewer and won championship, was the 1978 Bullets. And they have an excuse because they had injuries. I think they had injuries to Bob Dandridge and Phil Chenier. And then they recovered from that toward the end of the season. So at the end of the day, nah, man. This team just ain't good enough to me, man. They need to make a move. Now, I'm not blaming Doc for the performance per se. I'm pissed at Doc for being complacent with mediocrity, with that statement. That's what it sounds like to me. Like, we laugh about these things, you know. We can go 43-39 and we're going to run the playoffs. I mean, it's just how it is. Nope. If that's the case, then you're trying to tell me home court advantage ain't important. The way that the Bucks sometimes play on the road, they need home court advantage. Historically, most championship teams are in the top 3 seed in each conference. That's a historical fact. Very rarely do you see a team below the 3rd seed win a championship. Very rarely. Off the top of my head, what? The 1969 Celtics, the 1995 Rockets, and that's it. I believe that's it. Now, I'm not talking about getting to the finals. I'm talking about winning it. So, no, seeding is important. So to sit and act like it doesn't matter, that's bull. That's all I got to say about you, Justin.